Gonna have some deep discussion. We haven't done much of that.
No.
Anyways,
I guess the
topic
of this is our goats. So it was about a month ago. It was the beginning of September.
Yeah.
We kind of officially made the decision that we were no longer going to raise goats.
Yeah.
That has become a reality. So
yes, the goats are gone.
Friday, right before the long weekend, the last of our herd went. We've been working with them for a better part of 10 years each, give or take a year. And instead of just having the herd dispersed to all four corners of the province, they went kind of in batches, which was nice. So, and to people that plan to keep working with the breed. So that's
so all the hard work didn't feel like it went for nothing.
No, which is kind of nice. And I mean, they are a very rare breed, so we're happy for that. I suppose in a lot of ways, to some people, it probably makes no sense
to have gotten rid of them?
To have gotten rid of them when you've invested that much time and effort. But for us, it was really an economic-driven decision.
Well, and the abilities that we have at the new property.
Yeah, the changes of our situation, the land that we have now versus what we had before, and the fact that we can
think bigger. And there was nothing wrong with the goats. There's nothing wrong with raising goats. I mean, they provided us with milk for years. It was for on our smaller property that we had before, it worked perfectly. I mean, we couldn't have, you couldn't have looked into other options for a dairy.
No, still an excellent option for people with limited land.
Little bugger, I knew there was a chicken in the garden. Get out!
Technical difficulties on a small farm. Chicken in the garden.
Oh, those dirty, rotten chickens.
He's out
It
now.
is butcher time.
Yeah.
It is time to butcher. It's overdue.
That's another
and
job.
They're becoming a menace. Yeah. But that's another video.
Another job. But one thing, going back to the goat discussion, with smaller livestock, and we want to, over the winter months, discuss this because it's something that we've put way too much thought into. But on the smaller stock, this is kind of broaching into permaculture ideas too, and self-sufficiency, etc. You can keep chickens, rabbits. You can keep a population.
Yeah, basically be totally self-sustainable.
You can keep enough individuals to keep it going for your lifetime. But as you get into the larger animals, it starts to get a little more complicated. But the problem with the goats was, with the Oberhaslis being so rare, we had to keep a lot of them.
Or be very dependent on others.
And I'm going to say it, I think one of the very last, this is going to sound a little negative, but one of the very last things that made our decision was the actual Canadian Goat Society and some of the changes with them. I mean, to keep registered stock, you have to be part of whatever registry is keeping the records, and that right there is the most important part of a registry, because when you're talking big animals that you can't keep an entire population, it's nice to be able to see what other people have and how they're related, and really that's the function of a registry. Keep the records so that the population as a whole, i.e. you pick a breed, the population in North America or Canada as a whole, you can sort of track it, because no one person, for most things, when they get into the larger things, can keep enough individuals to keep a population going. Unfortunately, it's a cost thing. The cost for memberships and registrations for goats keeps going up.
It just kept climbing year after year. You'd see a little bit here, a little bit there.
By the time you grew them out and
paid $120 to butcher them.
Yeah, they were essentially costing you, which, not that you're trying to run a farm to make a massive profit, but I guess the principle, we want to try to keep all of our endeavors where, I'm not going to say they cover themselves.
Yeah, we'd like to stay out of the red. Isn't it red that's bad?
I think so.
Yeah. We'd like to stay out of the red. We're not asking to quit our day job and, well, I don't have a day job. You have a day job. But we're not asking to quit our day job. It's just we want the farm to be able to sustain itself money-wise. We want to kind of do that live out of a jar thing where anything that comes in from the farm goes in the jar and anything that has to go out comes out of the jar. And, the goats just were kind of really hurting the jar.
Yeah, long story short, it's nothing against the breed. The breed's wonderful, but between the economics and the social aspect of keeping the breed, we just couldn't do it anymore.
Well, and the other thing too is we were thinking bigger, and we were excited for that. And I mean, how many times I'm gonna be a little spoiler alert and hint ahead that we were and are contemplating cattle. How many times had we sat down and talked about it, that when you switch to milking cows, you're not going to milk the goats anymore. You just feasibly can't use that amount of milk.
No, it kind of doesn't make sense to have both.
It wasn't that there was anything bad about them.
No, I think a big thing from a strictly homestead perspective, it's hard to justify having a lot of goats.
Well, it's like even the sheep, for example. As we start getting the pastures going,
yeah,
they're virtually free meat. I mean, not yet. Did I quantify that or clarify it? They are not yet because we don't have enough pasture.
The cost to produce a lamb is a lot less than it is to produce the goat.
Even the cooney pigs, we're finding the grow out on them is. I was just looking in the feed room there, and I just noticed we're just getting to the bottom of our second bag, and those pigs are 7 months old.
Mm-hmm. So I guess it's one of those things. This is it's our decision of just what works for us. By no means are we saying goats are a bad idea. They were quite enjoyable. Kind of one of those things. You get to points with your homestead, small farm, whatever you want, whatever name you want to call it. That's another video. You get to a point where you're not doing it for economic gain per se. You can't really beat the big guys for that, but you still have to look at the overall economics of your farm when you're making decisions. It's just a reality.
Yeah, it's not something that you can constantly run in the negative.
No, well, not unless you have unlimited resources.
I think that is, and this is again another video for another discussion, but I think that is the potential difference between a farm and a hobby farm.
Yeah,
and this is so many people consider. I don't know how many people have said, "Oh, you guys have a hobby farm," and it seems that way to people, but it's not a hobby farm. This is a farm, and
seems that
we
way
need
to people because we're not a big commercial operation that's growing.
Yeah. That perspective of what people think a farm is now.
Yeah, what a farm has become. Which we won't get it too far into that, but when the first ones went, it was kind of a bittersweet day. I guess what's that, like 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah, 3 weeks ago.
A little bit sad because you've spent all that time working on something I won't say you feel like a failure, but just it's always sad to see them go.
You're just watching your hard work go.
Basically, in the grand scheme of things, the breed didn't suffer.
Which was our biggest concern.
That's a big concern because since 2008 that I've been doing this, and there's been a couple of ups and downs on sort of homesteading, small farm, self-reliant movements that have kind of happened in that time frame where you kind of get these peaks and dips where nobody's really doing it, then there's a lot of interest, and then everybody loses interest, and then they gain interest again, and through each one of those blips,
it's the rare breeds.
It's the rare breeds that suffer the most because what tends to happen is somebody, and this is why we're discussing this, because it wasn't a rash decision. It may seem like it on screen, but it wasn't a rash decision. Kind of the final statement on this, and I think this is important, and again we'll come back to it, is if you're seriously considering like the purebred registered breeds of, I'm going to say pretty much anything, but more the bigger stock, like cows, sheep, goats, pigs, those kind of things. The breeds themselves are seldom the problem. Homesteading, small farming, etc. Yes, you're doing it yourself. Yes, you're self-reliant. Yes, you're trying to just do everything yourself. But as soon as you get into these larger animals, that's not happening. It's unrealistic unless you have unlimited resources. You
become part of a community at that point.
Yes.
You need others.
I think that's the biggest take-home message. While you can do a lot of research on any breed, you need to and purpose for breeds and the benefits of a breed and all that sort of stuff, you need to get a feel for the community in your area, region, province, state, country, whatever it is. You need to get a really good idea of how that community's functioning, and if that community is functioning for this in the same manner that you would like to. If you're wanting to keep the animal for the same values as the rest of the community that's keeping them, great. That's what you want. Basically, working with people who are working with the breed that you're choosing, who kind of have the same overall vision. Sounds a little wishy-washy, but it's important. I think that's it for our rant. Kind of our...
Kids are getting impatient.
We got to build some fences, but that's kind of the bittersweet side of our Thanksgiving goat herd dispersal. It's finally happened. So Thanksgiving for us is kind of that turning point between the end of something and the beginning, end of something old and the beginning of something new.